AM 1460, the new WXBR. You are listening to the Metro South Morning Show, PM in the AM. Peter Zimborn and Mike Pava here with you on this Thursday morning. And as has been the case all week long during the 7 o'clock hour, we are chatting with candidates for Brockton City Council at large. And we have a return guest on the program today, Councilor-At-Large candidate in the city of Brockton, candidate Moises Rodrigues, who I last spoke with the day of the open house here at the WXBR studio. So welcome back, Moises.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me this morning.
Moises, you're a guy who's been involved in the city of Brockton in many different capacities over the years. Notably, you worked in the Jim Harrington administration. You actually have some experience working within the confines of City Hall. Why did you choose to run for Brockton City Councilor at large at this particular juncture?
Well, I feel that I basically have learned enough in city government in the sense to allow me to do this. And the city, I believe, is also at a crossroads where the diversity of the city has changed so much in terms of the immigrant populations that we deal with. And I think it's time that we actually have somebody in city council that actually understands this diversity, is actually able sometimes to communicate across these different cultures that exist in the city. Because being the only multilingual candidate in this particular race, I think it provides me with that opportunity to basically reach the different diversities that the different ethnic groups that actually live in this community, and basically kind of somehow grab those individuals and bring them on so that they become part of this of the Brockton culture, so we can kind of move forward as a city.
I should have began the interview by saying Kimoki Busta, but I...
Turudretibo.
We're chatting with Moises Rodrigues here on AM 1460, the new WXBR candidate for Brockton City Council at large. What have you been doing since you left the confines of Brockton City Hall as a member of the Jim Harrington administration?
Well, I do work for the U.S. Department of Commerce in the Census Bureau in terms of work. I also went back to the Cape Verdean Association. I'm the interim executive director at the organization as well. And I do some work with the New England Patriots. I do work at the stadium as part of the management of the stadium events and stuff like that at the stadium. And I actually had gone back to school to finish a master's that I started when Christ was in junior high. So that's what I've been doing since I left the mayor's office.
And you felt now was just the right time? Did you miss it?
Well, it was. I think I've always been involved in city affairs, no matter how you look at it. I mean, when you call Brockton home, it's kind of hard to stay totally away from the different activities in the city. And I believe, as I said earlier, I think having the experience from the administration standpoint, because usually a city council will run for mayor, but nobody from the mayor's office or one of his assistants actually run for city council. So I think it basically provides me with the knowledge how things really work in the mayor's office. I mean, I hear these guys who are councilors talking about how they're going to create all these different programs and do all these different things, and they forget that the programming side of things actually lies within the mayor's office or within the city administration itself, and not the legislative branch of government. So I feel that I can actually bring that perspective into the council that I think is greatly needed, because very few, I think, of the councils remember that they are actually the stronger arm of government, that they should be doing a lot more for the city of Brockton versus just kind of, doing what some councilors do in other communities where they're not really Plan B cities, and I believe that I actually can do that.
What are some of the issues that you think are significant to this election? How do you feel about these particular issues?
Well, I think, for the longest time, we've been talking about downtown redevelopment. Everybody talks about how we want to turn downtown Brockton into downtown USA somewhere. In reality, it's been a game that's been played for a gazillion years. I mean, we had some city councils talking about the need to bring back a planner or city planner to make the planning process a little bit better. But we had a planner prior to the planner being let go back in 2007 or 2008. So it's not the planning office. It's not the planner, because we had a planner. So if we had the planner, it's not like we had downtown Boston and downtown Brockton, and then we lost the planner and it turned to what we have now. So to me, the planning is not necessarily just the answer to that. It needs to be it's multifaceted in the sense. It comes from a different of issues, and we have to seriously look into downtown redevelopment, because as your downtown goes, so does your city. And I think the only thing that we haven't tried is turning Main Street into two-way traffic, create some traffic in the middle of the city, because I've been to cities all over this Commonwealth, and you see traffic jams in the middle of the city, reasonable traffic jams. It's not uncontrolled jams or gridlock, but you have to have a sense of traffic in the middle of your city, because when you look at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when you go by the courthouse and you see cars doing 90 miles an hour, not 90 miles, but you see them at 35, 40 miles an hour going through your main street, there's no way somebody can kind of look around and do some eye shopping in the sense and say, oh, I'm going to come back tomorrow and get this or get that from a store, because they're going way too fast in the middle of your city. So to me, we had done some studies while I was in the mayor's office to return two-way traffic to Main Street. I think to me that's priority one, because we can talk about all these zoning laws, all these ordinances that are written all over the place. You know what? That's all been tried before. So let's try the two-way traffic as one of the issues in the city. The second issue is the issue of violence. I think one of the main issues that people have that actually have them turning into criminal activities and stuff, it's because we don't have much for people to do. I mean, a lot of people have lost faith in the system. A lot of people have lost the engagement necessities that they should have. A lot of the young people don't have much to do in terms of activities in the city. It wasn't by accident that while I was in the mayor's office, we created the mayor's summer jobs programs, where we actually employed a ton of kids to do community service-like activities in the city while getting paid for it, cleaning the parks, working at the pools, working at the libraries in city government. We had kids cleaning streets, kids cleaning the cemeteries in the city, just to give them something to do and keep them busy. And it wasn't by accident that we had some serious safe summers in the city during the Harrington administration. So that's something that we've done, and that's something that I would like to push forward. Again, not from the programming side of things, but basically from the lobbying and the advocating part of things. That what I think that city council should actually be doing. We know that the power plant is an issue. I'm sure. I'm surprised you haven't even asked that question yet, but I'm sure it's
we're getting there.
Oh, we're getting there. That's a major issue, and an issue that we need to look at it seriously. And the fact that we don't do a great deal of involving the average citizen in city affairs. That's my thing. Because if everybody buys into what we're selling and they feel that they're a part of this community, I believe that things can turn around a great deal in the city. Because if you feel invested in the city, if you feel that this is your city and you're a part of it, and we remind you constantly that this is your city, you're not here as a foreigner, you're not here as an illegal immigrant, you're not here as whatever, that you're a citizen of this community, you need to buy into, let's keep our streets safe, let's keep our streets clean and our neighborhoods clean, let's pick up our trash and do some things. And speaking of trash, that's another thing that I often feel that in conversations with some folks in city government, a lot of the city officials whose job it is to enforce codes and laws in the city feel that, we have laws in the books, but they lack the teeth, and the ability to basically force people to do things to clean their neighborhoods, clean their homes, keep their homes nice and clean and stuff like that. Because what happens, you see a house that looks like it's vacant and abandoned in the sense, and chances are the individuals who are involved in those kinds of activities will come into those communities and act the same way. So that would be something that I would look into to tweak some of the laws that we already have in the book, put some real enforcement power behind them, and because that's what the community wants, and if you are going to be a city councilor to represent the people in this community, you got to start doing what people want you to do.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the proposed power plant here in the city of Brockton. Are you for or against, and do you have reasons why?
Well, as out of the 8 guys that are running for city council, I'm actually the only one who lives in Ward 4. An area affected by the power plant. Mm-hmm. I have talked to my neighbors, my friends, my family that live in that area, and nobody in that area wants it. I have yet to find somebody that understands the consequences, the risks, and all the other issues involved in this power plant. I have not found a single person that says, "Oh yeah, send the power plant down this way." For those reasons that I've stated, the fact that I live in that area and reading into, looking at the benefits and the risks associated with this power plant, I'm totally against it because I don't see, one, they talk about the jobs creations. I don't see Brockton jobs being created at this power plant. And when I say Brockton jobs, I don't have a single family or friend or anybody that I know who actually is a technician in power production. So it's not going to create what I call Brockton jobs. Two, as far as the tax benefits to the city, it doesn't matter, in my opinion, what you put in that place. As long as if you're building something, there are tax benefits to that building. No matter what, unless you put a nonprofit organization or a church or something that doesn't pay taxes, anything that produces anything in this community will create the tax benefits. The water, again, whatever you put in that particular field, that's where the power plant is being proposed. As long as you put a building that's functioning, producing something, there's the water being sold. So I don't see, to be honest with you, the risk benefits, the health benefits that I hear of issues that have been brought up, and the fact that that south end of the city has been used as a dumping ground for whatever the rest of the city does not want. We put it on the south side. Some of us residents have had enough of that stuff, and I think we have put our foot down, and we'll continue to fight that no matter what it is. Because I hear people saying, the city has lost thousands and thousands of dollars fighting the power plant. You know what? If people had believed in the same way about the civil rights movement and stuff like this, we would still be talking about the issues that we had in the South in this country back a few years ago. So it's worth the fight. And if elected, I will continue to fight on behalf of the citizens of this city because you know what? It's a business that this city does not need.
You mentioned two-way traffic on Main Street being something that was studied in the Jim Harrington administration, which you were a part of. Why has that not happened just yet, and how will you make that happen?
Well, I honestly believe that, we've got individuals that it's nice for folks to hear themselves talk and talk about how, there's a need for real development. There's a need for real development. But in reality, it's that simple. The studies have been done. We spent thousands and thousands of dollars on those studies. It actually turned some streets around. We hear that it's because of financial issues that it has not been done. But yet somehow funding have come through for the facade projects. We use the CDBG funds for a variety of other things. And to me, if we're serious about downtown redevelopment, I think that's the first thing that we need to do with whatever funding or whatever lobbying we need to do to get additional funding to turn that quarter of a mile. It's mind-boggling in the sense where in front of BCA, it's two-way traffic. And then you go down south in front of Tamboo, it's two-way traffic. But yet that little quarter of a mile section needs to be one-way for traffic purposes. Whose traffic? I live on the south side of the city. Campello is two-way. Montello is two-way. So why is it that little quarter of a mile has to be two ways? And that's something that hasn't been tried in recent years, and I think it's something that we need to try it as soon as possible to give that downtown section a prayer. The businesses that have stuck around and have done what they can to bring that section up, they should be rewarded for something. These guys have actually, the Marians brothers, the Tamboos of the world, the Joangelos of the world, some of these folks that are actually doing whatever they can to keep that section afloat. They should be given medals because they deserve to. Most people would have packed up and left, and they've stuck around. And as long as some visionary folks are put into that office, they're not going to be alone in the decisions that they need to be made, that needs to be made or make in that area can actually benefit that area. And some of us are willing to stand up and do those things.
We're chatting with Moises Rodrigues here on AM 1460, the new WXBR candidate for Councilor-At-Large in the city of Brockton. Let's talk about the Aquaria Desal plant. It's been a hot-button issue in regards to this current election. The deal the city has with this plant, to my knowledge right now, is the city pays in excess of $6 million per year for the plant to exist without seeing much return financially or in terms of water usage. They see little to no return on both of those particular things. Do you think the city can break the contract they have with the Aquaria Desal plant? There's been some debate about that, whether or not they're in breach of contract or not. And what knowledge you have of it, having been in City Hall years ago?
Well, I think the way I see it is that let's be realistic about this. Paying $6 million for water we don't use is kind of dumb. That you don't have to have a triple PhD from Harvard or MIT to figure that stuff out. But a contract's a contract. Several years ago, for some of us that have been living in the city longer than you've been alive, this city has always had water problems. And water issues have forced the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to come down and say, you guys have got to take care of your water problems. You cannot sit here, live day to day with the water issues that we've had in the past. I mean, how many people remember that, God forbid, you get caught watering your lawn because of the water bans that have existed in the city. So that plant was brought in line or online to respond to some of the issues that we've had in the city. Now, that being said, I don't see us lobbying a great deal of folks in our surrounding communities, all the way down to the areas where Stoughton is hooked up to the MWRA. Is it possible that maybe we can work with Stoughton and take them away from the MWRA, where they pay a ton of money for water, which is water that's a lot higher than the city of Brockton? Can we work with some of these surrounding communities that we have? Because I think just to get out of the contract and call it quits, to me, would not be sensible. Because what happens if 2 or 3 years from now we go back to the droughts that we've had in the past in this community? I remember several years ago we had an opportunity to bring in a Hilton hotel to an area down by Westgate Mall. And the water issue wasn't one of the issues that prevented that hotel chain from coming into Brockton. So if it's hindering progress in this city, we got to do something with the water problem that we have in this city. But again, paying $6 million without a single dime in return makes absolutely no sense. But it's up to us to be cheerleaders. If we need to be cheerleaders as elected officials, then we become cheerleaders to basically sell water for whoever wants to buy it, low price, high price, or whatever the issue is, because we do not want to go back to the days of not being able to wash your car in your driveway if you had to, And I know it's a subject that people say, with all the issues that we have with finances in the city, paying $6 million. Listen, I'm not in favor of paying $6 million, but I'm also not in favor of going back to the days when we didn't have any water in the city, or having a situation where you've got companies that want to move into this community, and we can't allow them to move into this community because we don't have a water solving issue in the city. And again, let's not forget, we've gone through this road before, and it's been a problem. So to me, I think we need to be more cheerleaders to basically sell what we have. Look at it as a resource that we have in this community that we have to sell. We can't just sit back and let those folks do what's been done before, because it's not working.
During the preliminary election, which you were able to go from the field of 15, you made it to the field of 8, which is now a part of the general election. There were people within the field of 15 that spent more money than you on their campaign, and you actually did not participate in the preliminary debate. Why did you not participate in the preliminary debate, by the way?
Well, I actually had called Mark Lindy and informed him that on that Sunday night prior to I believe the debate was on a Wednesday. That Sunday night, a dear uncle of mine had passed away down in Falmouth. An uncle of mine that was instrumental in my upbringing, and I viewed him almost as a second father. So coming from a close-knit family community that I come from, it would almost be unforgivable in the sense if you left the family that was all gathered in Falmouth in the sense in mourning the passing of this uncle who was instrumental in my family coming to this country, instrumental in my own upbringing in the sense. He passed away unexpectedly at the Good Samaritan Hospital, and we were planning the arrangements for his funeral that weekend. So I was with my family, and basically that needed a great deal of support, because I couldn't just come up with a situation where it would be acceptable in their eyes for me to say, oh, by the way, I'm leaving the family because I'm going to Brockton to be on television. So that's the reason why I missed the debate, and I communicated that along with some of the folks that I needed to communicate that. And I hope that the community understands that I didn't blow it off, but there was a reason as to why I was out of town, but it was because of the passing of that dear uncle of mine.
Well, nevertheless, when the field got cut down from 15 to 8, you are now a part of the field of 8, vying for the 4 seats that are available for City Council at Large in Brockton, despite the fact, and I think I'm fair in saying this, you have not campaigned as much as some of the other folks who are no longer a part of the campaign. Why do you think you did so well in the preliminary?
Well, I did do campaign. I mean, once I took care of the funeral issues with my uncle, and I think the last couple of weeks of the election, I know that there was an article that came out in the paper saying that we didn't spend any money in terms of campaigning. But I had run I ran for office 10 years ago, and a lot of the signs that I had, we were able to keep it, in a garage somewhere. So we utilized some of the signage that we had from the previous run. But by the time, remember, the reports came out for the 30th of August. So from the 30th of August until the 17th, when the elections actually took place, we actually had spent some money in terms of new pamphlets and new printing and things like that, and new signage as well, too. So we did spend some money. But the idea is that, you know what, there are other ways of campaigning as well. The demographics in the city has actually changed. People are no longer interested in the BS that comes out of a lot of our elected officials' mouths, in the sense. They want to see you, they want to hear from you, in the sense. And I did a lot of door-to-door conversations with our folks. A lot of the social media, in the sense, with Facebook and the internet was utilized as well to campaign. And I think a lot of the folks in this community know that when I was in the mayor's office, I did do some things for this community. It's not by accident that you looked at, we govern, and I'm saying we govern because it's Harrington, myself, and Donna, and some of the other staffs that actually compose the Harrington administration. We governed during one of the worst financial crises that that this country has ever seen, and yet we were able to build schools, we built parks, we created jobs for the kids, and did some of those other things because we learned how to do more with less. So a lot of folks in this community recognize that. A lot of people in this community saw that we were able to do a lot of these other things, and I was in the forefront of a lot of the things that were being done in this community, and I think that's what happened in terms of the community compensating me with their vote during the preliminary elections, which I think I finished third, during that election.
We are up against another local news break. Any final words for our listeners before we let you go this morning? Thank you for coming on, by the way.
Well, I just want to let the community know that I'm someone who believes in service. I served during as I mentioned earlier, during the Harrington administration, and I believe that I served this community to the best of my abilities. I'm not going to say that we were able to transform rocks into gold stones, in the sense, but we did what we could under the circumstances. Tried very hard not to lay off anybody, tried very hard not to destroy a lot of the families that layoffs sometimes bring. But we managed what we had during the period that we were in office. And I am someone that actually I have served in a variety of community organizations and boards and commissions all over the city. But what differs me from a lot of the candidates that are running for office, I'm actually an immigrant kid. I came from overseas. I came here when I was a teenager, went straight to Brockton High School, graduated from Brockton High School, graduated from college. But I also did something that the other 7 haven't done, which is serve this country in its military. I served in the Navy for 6 years, as an immigrant kid that actually came from overseas. And you hear how the immigrant populations, they want to come in and suck the system dry and not do anything for this country and stuff like that. I actually wore the uniform to protect this country. So I believe that alone should actually make some people take notice for the fact that I've served in the past, and I'm willing to serve again. And given the opportunity to serve, I will serve my community, and I'll serve the city.
That is Moises Rodrigues, candidate for Brockton City Council-At-Large, joining us here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. You're listening to the Metro South Morning Show, PM in the AM. We'll step aside for a quick break. Mike Pava brings us a local news update. Stay with us.